welcome to Light in the Dark podcast. I am your host, Lady B. Before I introduce today's guest, I want to stress the words trigger warning. Topics discussed today may be triggering to some. You have been warned. Also, neither I nor the guest are licensed therapists, psychologists, counselors, etc. We are only sharing our experiences and or testimonies. If you need a licensed therapist, psychologist, counselor, etc., please seek a licensed therapist, psychologist, counselor, etc. There is no shame in getting your mental health together. I repeat, there is no shame in getting your mental health together. Now, on that note, let's start the show. I have with me a returning guest, August. I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to say that today's topic, trigger warning again, will be sexual abuse. My question for you is, when did the sexual abuse start?
Well, high school, definitely. It's all mostly just a blur now because it happened, so long ago. But I can definitely just explain or talk about, the events. It happened twice. First time happened sophomore year. It was a typical Monday English class. It was a gloomy day. There's a guy next to me. He just started just talking to me, and I'm like, oh, hello, like, how can I help you? But he just wouldn't leave me alone. I'm just like, okay, I guess. And then, long story short, he was just like, hey, so he took my book from me, right? And I need that for class. I need it for homework. And he took it from me, and I'm like, can I have it back? He's like, no, you can't. And I'm just like, oh, okay. And then he was like, well, why don't you come with me? Let's cut class together. I'm just like, okay, sure. I need my book back. How else am I gonna get it? So anyway, class is over. We're all leaving, and then I was already uncomfortable with this. My heart was telling me like something is wrong here. So anyway, we were on the second floor, so we went down the hallway, all the way down the stairs, and then we went through the back doors. There is a beautiful creek behind the school. So he took me behind the creek, woods area there. And I was just like, why are we here? And we sat down, and I was so, I was naive. I thought he just wanted to hang out or something. But he just started touching me and stuff, and just getting just really hands-on and everything. And I was just no, I don't want this. But then he just didn't care, and he just kept doing things. And at that point, I was just I froze for a time. It almost felt like time stopped because I didn't know what to do. And I'm just there's no one else around. What do I do? Do I scream? Do I yell? What do I do? And so I just kind of just let him do whatever he wanted then. And then I do remember just looking up above, and I was telling myself, this is what hell looks like. This is what hell feels like, apparently, and I felt so stuck, my voice was stuck in my throat. I just couldn't talk. And of course I tried moving his hands from my pants and everything, but his hands went down my pants anyway. And I don't want to get too graphic or too detailed. But yeah, it was just so awful. What was odd about it was everything that happened felt like forever, but in reality, it happened in 3 minutes. I don't know. Time was weird because I was in my head. I didn't know what to do, and I mean, I could have ran away or something, or I could have grabbed a stick or something. I don't know. I didn't want to cause a scene, and then I don't know. It was just the most undescribable feeling. I felt like my heart was gone because my voice was gone, my heart was gone, everything was gone because he took everything away from me. And at that time, he had all the power, and I didn't. Anyway, he was like, okay, you have your book back. And it's okay. So after that, he went the opposite direction. I went he went somewhere, whatever, but I went all the way around the high school because once you leave the school, the doors automatically lock. So I had to walk all the way around the school. And I immediately went to the front office, and I told them what happened. I remember that so well. I went to the front office, I started like crying. Like I just started crying and crying and crying. And it was like I cried so much, like the world, like the floor became like an ocean almost, you know? So obviously I told them what happened. They sat me down. I had to fill out I forgot the term, but it was some type of file that I had to report the incident, and just, you know, I had to describe literally every detail. I had to describe everything. And I was like, I couldn't find the words, you know, like I was so like traumatized, you know. It's like how could I describe that? Like after that, like I don't know, but I did the best I could. So after that, I think the cops were called. I think. I hope they were called. They were called. So I was talking to them and stuff, and unfortunately, that was still kind of, I can't remember everything after that because that was such a blurry, foggy day because of what happened. You know, thankfully, I haven't seen him since. But you know what though? It's scary because I have days every now and then where I'm just like, what if I see him again? You know, it's like, you know, because even though we live in a very like big world, the world can be small too. And it's scary because that's how life is. Because I have this internal fear that what if I see him again? It's like, what do I do? You know. But what was so awful after that experience, it just guys just would, I wouldn't say they constantly like abuse me or anything, but guys all will just throw themselves at me all the time. And what was weird that this one, I remember the whole thing. I was having lunch with my friends, you know, just eating and stuff. And then after lunch, I was on my way to class. As I was walking towards class, this guy comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, are you that girl?" And I'm like, "What?" And I was like, "What? What are you talking about?" And then he was like, he said something like, "I heard you were easy." I'm like, "What? Like, what is what?" Again, I became uncomfortable. I'm just like, why is this happening? You know? But then of course I ignored him. I just walked in class. And then I sat down in class and I'm just like, I told myself, do I really deserve this? Is this what life is now? You know, and at that point I told myself, well, I guess I deserve it because apparently that's all my life is now. It was just so weird. No one deserves that. Second time after high school, I graduated. So this happened a year after I graduated. It was a Sunday night. It was a beautiful night. You know, you can see the stars and everything. And I was walking around my apartment complex for a little bit. It was just a beautiful night. Anyway, well, before I even like get to that day, at the time I had a neighbor. He, you know, was gonna just cut to the chase. You know, he had a crush on me, all of that, you know, and I didn't really pay any attention to it because I saw him as just a friend, you know, nothing more. Anyway, so over time he was so interested in me, all kinds of things, and of course I would just again just kindly just say, you know, I'm not interested, you know, all of that, right? Sunday night, I come upstairs, go in my room, you know, decompress, get all cozy and stuff. There's a knock on the door, and I'm just like, oh, it could be like my brother, my little brother, or twin brother, I don't know, or a family friend, I don't know. Open up the door, it was him, and I'm like, oh, what do you need? And he was just like, he was so blunt about it. He was just like, let me come in. And I should have said no, but I did anyway because, you know, I'm very friendly, and I said, okay, sure, why not? Two neighbors hanging out. My mom, she was here, but she was in her room and she was sleeping. So anyway, we went to my room. I was like, okay, dude, like I don't want to do anything. I just want to talk and hang out, you know? But he didn't listen. Like he didn't listen. He really didn't. He threw himself at me and I did things I didn't want to. My body language said more than I ever could say anything. And I told him like I don't want to do it. Like I told him no, but he just didn't care really. And all of this was happening. Like my mom just crossed the hallway, and it was kind of like how history repeated itself, like how like my voice was gone, you know, felt like just everything was being taken away, you know. And after everything, I cried a lot. Called my best friend at the time, told her what happened. She was like, you need to call the police, like you need to, like right now, like call the police. August, call the police, do it. And I'm just like, I said some, I don't know what I said, but I was basically basically denying what happened, but she was like, no, you're calling the police. I called them. She's like, you need to. And then I was just like, I don't want to. And she's like, we just kept going back and forth. But I don't think I did, sadly, because I was scared. And the day after that, or no, a few days after that, I saw him again, and he thought he could get away with anything now. Thank God, like he moved, but like he moved like I think 2 years later after that. But I feel so horrible for like not calling the cops. I should have, and I still hold a lot of regret. And that's the one thing I'm still guilty for. There's nothing I can do now. After all of that, though, I literally couldn't sleep in my own bed. I literally couldn't. You know, the bed, and then I had like a couch in front of my bed. I just slept in my couch for that entire time frame, and I have days where I'm like, I should just, I wouldn't say tell my mom what happened, but at least let her know, like, hey, I need like the therapy. It's so hard because like there have been moments where I feel like I'm not really strong enough or bold enough to I wouldn't say bold enough, but I still feel like I'm not really strong in many ways because I feel like my own will has just been taken from me so many times. I just feel like powerless in a way, and I want my power back. Yeah.
I was gonna ask you a question, and I think you kind of touched on it like a little bit. But I was gonna ask you, like, did you ever tell your mom in school? I'm quite sure like the school made your mom aware. But when it came to the neighbor, I was gonna ask you, did you make your mom aware of what had occurred? And I'm thinking the answer is no.
No, because the reason, because I didn't want, like, what is more heartbreaking than a mother hearing the word trigger warning? I was raped, I was molested, like that is heartbreaking for any parent to hear that from their daughter or even son, like it is just the very last few words any parent would want to hear. Even to this day, she doesn't know. My boyfriend, we had a heart-to-heart moment. He knows about it, and he's encouraging me to tell her. But then I was like, what's the point of telling her if, he's long gone and all of that, But he is telling me, you need to tell her this would be a way for you to start healing, like this is something that needs to be discussed, and I said, you're right, because healing is so important, from trauma, from grief, trying to see when's the perfect timing.
There is no such thing as perfect timing.
That is absolutely true. I tried to convince myself, oh, I'll tell her this. I tell her here, but yeah, you're right. And it's gonna be hard. But for now, I'm always doing my best to keep up with healthy outlets. There's poetry, there's gaming, all kinds of positive things to help keep me grounded. All I want is to be brave again. I don't know if that makes sense, but I just want to be brave again, to be able to stand up for myself and have so much strength to be stronger again. I think that's important too.
Other than your friend who you had called on the phone, you kind of went through that traumatic experience by yourself. That has to be really tough. And I think tough is an understatement, especially when it's your neighbor and you constantly see this person, and to know that they hurt and betrayed you and violated you in a very deep way. For 2 years, like you saw this person for 2 years. How did you not break and like tell your mom? Or was it like after a minute you were kind of just disconnected?
I want to say, yeah, pretty much disconnected. I tried so hard to just forget all the time and try to ignore. Oh, it's part of me. I tried to ignore like him. And also too, I would also make sure I'm like never home. Like I'm maybe out with a friend or friends or running errands, or I will always try my best to keep myself like occupied, physically, like going out, or mentally doing something constantly, so I can pretend that he's not there and what happened never happened. And I don't know how I didn't break. I mean, I have moments where like at night I'm laying on the couch just trying to sleep, but then I'm like, do it, tell her, but I felt just too weak to tell her because of everything. I just felt like I didn't have the heart to. I don't have. Again, I'm gonna go back to what I said earlier. My voice was just gone. A part of me was gone. And that's what it all felt like. Like half my soul was gone, pretty much.
So around this time, were you cutting?
You know what? Yeah, cutting was also a coping mechanism for me to, like, if I didn't want to say anything, talk to anyone, cutting was that kind of quote unquote comfort for me to let go of everything. But it didn't make it any better because like all the scars and everything were just like a reminder of it. It's like, but then the mark I look at, I'm like, oh, that's when I got molested. Like, it's just the scars, they hold memories. So cutting was definitely not it was not good. But I don't do it anymore. But yeah, at the time I did. Yeah. And I think because I would cut, I think it was because it was a way for me to control what was happening to me and also have that sense of power. Like, okay, like it was a way for me to get power back to myself. And that was the only thing I thought would help me regain some sense of control. But I've learned too that I can't stress this enough. No one deserves this. I told myself I do, but I don't. No one does. No human on this planet Earth deserves this kind of trauma, this kind of heartache, this kind of darkness or abuse. No one deserves it. And
it's not your fault. Like, it's nothing you did that was like, oh, okay, well, I deserve this, because you didn't. It was not your fault. Like, you didn't do anything. It wasn't your fault. That's strictly on the people who perpetrated that act. Like, that's strictly on them. Like, that's something that I think people need to understand is that when things like this occur, it's not the victim's fault. And sometimes we as a society victim shame, which is terrible.
I agree.
But it's not the victim's fault of what happened to them, of what someone else decided, hey, I'm going to do this to you, all because I feel like, and there's nothing you can do about it. You can kick, scream, I'm gonna do it anyway. Like, and it's terrible that we as a society be like, oh, well, she shouldn't have worn that dress, or she knew what she was getting into. That's terrible that we do that. And we actually need to stop, because that's letting the perpetrator off scot-free. And it's like, oh, the perpetrator didn't do nothing. The victim did everything. And no, the victim didn't. The victim is the victim.
Yeah. It's so gut-wrenching, because it's like, just because she wanted to wear a nice dress, nice skirt, nice whatever, or she went out with a friend or something, whatever scenario it is, she did not decide to get raped. She did not decide to get molested. That's not what she thought of today. Like, no. It's horrible that we live in that kind of. Why do people think that's okay? Like, why?
It's a patriarchal society. Like, men make up the rules. Like, when it comes to abortion, men make up the rules of what a woman can do with her uterus, what a woman can do with her body. And it's like, are you serious? And so now it's like, oh, well, she shouldn't have worn that dress, or she shouldn't have went to the club, or she shouldn't have did this. And it's like, okay, but where is the responsibility at for the guy who violated someone? Where is his responsibility? Because they seem to put all the responsibility on the woman.
On the and I'm just like, are you guys blind? Like, who is the real bad person here? I don't know. It's awful. So the point is, don't allow anyone to make you feel like you've done something wrong because of what happened to you, that you did not consent to, that you did not want, that you just don't allow anyone make you feel horrible. You did not do anything wrong. They did. You didn't.
Any parting words before I give this ending?
Know that everything will be okay. It will be. It's not your fault. Never will be. You're okay. Things will get better. And know that no matter what happens, there will always be light.
On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching another episode of Light in the Dark podcast. I am your host, Lady B, and today I had with me August. So, ladies and gents, until next time, deuces.
Bye.